Genetics and effort are rarely the reasons for a total lack of muscle growth. You wake up early, you prepare your pre-workout, you walk into the gym highly motivated, executing your disciplined routine day in and day out. You push yourself to the limit. You sweat, your muscles burn, and you leave the gym certain that you've done everything required for success. Yet as the months pass, the physical transformation stays out of reach. Despite your high output, the needle doesn't move. Your strength plateaus. Your physique remains the same, and your joints start to ache. Usually, lifters look for missing pieces: more protein, a better plan, or expensive supplements. The actual cause is often hidden in plain sight. Daily habits are actively sabotaging your hard work, neutralizing your progress before it can take hold. Muscle growth is a process widely misunderstood. Many believe the physical act of lifting weights is where the actual growth occurs. In reality, high-tension lifting creates microscopic, jagged tears along the fiber strands of the muscle. Your body treats this damage as a biological warning. It interprets the tears as a signal that the current structure is insufficient for the workload. The actual construction of new tissue happens entirely outside the gym, during periods of rest and sleep. This leads to the first major obstacle: overtraining. The fitness community often treats volume as a linear path to success, assuming that if some training works, twice as much will work better. Think of a healing hand wound. Cutting it daily constantly interrupts and resets the healing. Training unhealed muscle is the same biological error. Repair requires 3 components to complete: energy, biological resources, and uninterrupted time. When you remove that time, performance drops and joint pain sets in. Growth slows to a crawl because the body is stuck in a permanent state of damage control. When results stop, most lifters double down on volume, adding more sets and days. This is like trying to extinguish a fire with gasoline. Because tissue is built through recovery, scaling back your training frequency often triggers the growth that daily sessions prevent. Even with a better schedule, a second mistake occurs every night. This habit can dismantle months of training progress in a single week. While you sleep, your endocrine system works at peak capacity. It releases growth hormones and directs repair particles to rebuild the damaged fibers from your workout. Treating sleep as an optional luxury sacrifices this recovery window, often in favor of late-night screen time. Without sufficient sleep, protein synthesis drops and cortisol levels spike. This environment makes muscle growth nearly impossible while significantly increasing your risk of injury. This biological bottleneck explains why 2 people on the same program can see completely different results. One prioritizes the recovery window, the other destroys it. Elite coaches often give this directive: if you have to choose between 1 extra hour of training or 1 extra hour of sleep, choose the sleep. Weightlifting sends the signal to grow. Recovery performs the actual construction. Growth requires this scale to stay balanced. Without recovery, the stimulus of the gym has nowhere to go. However, a perfect schedule and 8 hours of sleep still won't guarantee growth for everyone. Once recovery is optimized, the focus shifts to the biomechanics of the movements themselves. Many lifters move weight through a range of motion while completely missing the target muscle. They bypass the bicep or chest and load the tension directly into the joints instead. Correcting these specific biomechanical errors allows you to stop simply moving weight and finally start loading the muscle. We will expose exactly how to do that in the next investigation.
You could be training consistently, sleeping 8 hours a night, showing up every single week, and still be quietly sabotaging your own results. Because there is a biological reality that most lifters completely ignore. Your muscles do not know how heavy the weight in your hands actually is. Looking at this diagram of isolated muscle fibers, you won't see a barbell or a dumbbell. You only see fibers expanding and contracting in response to one specific physical signal: mechanical tension. Misunderstanding that mechanism is exactly where deadly mistake number 3 begins: using far too much weight. Walk into nearly any gym and you will see people chasing numbers. The primary goal becomes loading up more plates to outlift everyone around them. But the moment your ego becomes stronger than your technique, the target shifts. The muscles stop doing the work, and your joints become the victims. Imagine someone sliding under a barbell for a bench press that is simply too heavy for them to properly control. As you can see on the left side of this split-screen diagram, their form instantly breaks down. Shoulders roll forward, elbows flare out, the bar bounces off the sternum, and the whole body shakes to move the load. As a result, those shoulder joints are absorbing an enormous, dangerous amount of stress. Meanwhile, the chest, the actual muscle they are trying to grow, is receiving almost zero tension. Now look at the right side of the screen. When the lift is executed with proper biomechanical control, the chest illuminates. It reaches peak activation, with secondary muscles smoothly supporting the movement. This exact breakdown happens everywhere, on pull-ups, rows, bicep curls, and squats. The paradox here is that many people who lift lighter weights actually build significantly more muscle, simply because they control the movement and create targeted tension exactly where it matters. Trading strict technique for a few extra heavy plates leaves you with less growth, immense frustration, and an inevitable injury. That leads directly to another incredibly common error. Deadly mistake number 4, the half-rep trap. You see it every day. Lifters dropping only a few inches into a squat, pull-ups where the arms never fully extend, bench presses stopped halfway down, and curls swung without reaching a full contraction. This diagram illustrates the problem. Every muscle possesses a natural movement pattern. It requires a full range of motion to stretch, contract, and produce force. Here, the motion abruptly halts halfway. Doing this is like reading only half the pages in a book. The muscle never receives the complete biological signal it needs to understand the demand being placed on it. Research repeatedly shows that completing the full range of motion, as seen here when the arc expands to a full 180 degrees, creates superior growth because it stretches and activates a much larger portion of the muscle fibers. So why do so many people cut their reps short? Because it hides weakness. It allows the lifter to avoid the deepest, most difficult part of the movement. Avoiding those highly demanding physical positions might protect your ego in the moment, but it prevents the physical adaptation required to actually grow. And then there is a mistake that many skip over without a second thought. Deadly mistake number 5, skipping your warm-up, often because it feels boring and unnecessary. People load the bar immediately, forgetting that your muscles, joints, and tendons are living tissues. They are not mechanical parts ready to fire on command. You wouldn't start a freezing car engine on a winter morning and immediately floor the accelerator. The cold metal strains under the pressure. Loading tight, unprepared muscles is no different. This anatomical schematic displays what a proper warm-up actually does. It increases blood flow, raises core temperature, lubricates the joints, shown by the auras at the knees and elbows, and activates the nervous system for intense movement. Without that preparation, the risk of injury skyrockets, and those injuries rarely arrive with a sudden loud pop. They usually start quietly. A small ache in the shoulder, a slight discomfort in the knee. At first, you ignore it, but over weeks and months, as that ignored discomfort is repeatedly stressed, it slowly evolves into debilitating chronic damage. A successful workout begins long before the first heavy lift. It begins with the intention, preparation, and respect required to properly ready your body for battle. If you avoid those 5 mistakes and maintain tension-focused execution, you've addressed the primary technical hurdles inside the gym. But there is a frustrating reality. Even with technical precision and a consistent routine, you might notice that your physical progress begins to stall or even plateau entirely. The true sabotage often happens far away from the squat racks and dumbbells. It happens right here, at the dinner table, in your unmonitored daily habits, and in the hours ticking by between your workouts. In the final chapter, we will reveal the last 2 deadly mistakes that can neutralize the hard work you put into your training. Because for many lifters, these unseen out-of-gym errors are the reason they have remained stuck without seeing significant changes for years.
We've uncovered 5 deadly mistakes: overtraining, poor sleep, ego lifting, partial reps, skipping warm-ups, Millions of people walk into the gym every day under a single assumption that sheer physical effort and discipline are the only requirements for growth. Biological reality dictates your body cannot build muscle from effort alone. Regardless of intensity, the body cannot create new tissue from nothing. This brings us to deadly mistake number 6, not eating enough to grow. Many lifters overestimate their nutritional intake. They believe their current diet supports their goals, but their actual caloric and nutrient consumption remains at odds with their physical output. The daily routine is often the same: a small breakfast, a rushed lunch, and perhaps a protein shake to compensate for missed meals. They expect the body to synthesize pounds of new muscle tissue from these fragments. Consider a construction crew hired to build a skyscraper. The workers are skilled, the plans are perfect, and the equipment is ready. But if the trucks never deliver the bricks, steel, or concrete, the building stays on the ground. No amount of hard work by the crew can replace the physical materials. This flowchart illustrates the biological equivalent. Training is the crew. Recovery is the process. Food provides the building material. Growth requires more than just protein. The system relies on specific thresholds of calories, carbohydrates, healthy fats, vitamins, minerals, and water working in unison. Many individuals train with the intensity of professional athletes while maintaining the caloric intake of someone in a survival state. When resources are low, the body prioritizes survival over energy-expensive processes like muscle synthesis. It protects vital organs and metabolic function before it considers building a wider chest or bigger arms. From a biological perspective, muscle is expensive. It requires significant energy to build, more energy to maintain, and a constant caloric cost to carry daily. Years of consistent training can yield zero visible change if the biological machine is forced to pause progress due to a lack of resources. We then arrive at the most invisible error, deadly mistake number 7, the failure to track and measure progress. Navigating a physique transformation without tracking data is like driving across a continent without a map or GPS. Without markers, it is impossible to know when you have veered off course. This leads to a repetitive loop, where lifters repeat the same workouts for months without documenting their strength, body weight, or measurements. They rely on the hope that progress happens automatically. This chart compares 2 approaches to growth. One athlete relies on memory, while the other documents every weight lifted and setback. The data shows the documented approach allows for consistent, incremental gains. Successful training requires measurement. What gets measured can be systematically improved. Effective tracking is simple. It involves recording sets, taking monthly progress photos, and monitoring scale weight and measurements. Visible data creates a feedback loop. When you see the numbers, you can adjust the plan to ensure the system never stalls. Systematic tracking removes the guesswork, making muscle growth a predictable outcome of the process. Most people struggling in the gym are likely committing several of these 7 mistakes simultaneously. An impressive physique is not the result of miraculous genetics, expensive supplements, or secret programs. Muscle growth is a biological process, dictated by consistent execution of recovery, nutrition, and intelligent training. The individuals making the most progress year after year are often the ones making the fewest systemic errors. Success in physical transformation comes from higher precision. It is about identifying the specific bottlenecks in your routine and removing them. One optimized workout, one sufficient meal, and one full night of sleep, repeated consistently, eventually produce results that are impossible to ignore. The final physique is the compound result of thousands of specific choices regarding sleep, meals, and recovery. These choices are made in isolation, often when motivation has vanished and progress feels stagnant. These are the moments that dictate the actual transformation. Next time you walk into the gym, shift the focus. Instead of measuring only the intensity of the effort, evaluate the intelligence of the training. Directionless hard work leads to frustration. However, when effort is aligned with biological knowledge, it produces visible physical change. Closing the gap to your target body depends on identifying and removing the mistakes that have stalled your progress. Thank you for watching. If you found this valuable, share this video with someone struggling to see results. To continue building a stronger version of yourself,
subscribe to Health Pulse. This is only the beginning. Stay strong, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next video.